to our training for today. Okay, so in our training today, of course, you know, we're going to go over it's just a throwback Thursday. This is something that we have done before. We have done Educators Handbook before, but if you're new to our system or you've forgotten about it, you know, it's something that you may need to do training on, you know, just because you've forgotten about it. It's one of those things we haven't had to use, hopefully, you know, since we've been out for COVID. So there may be some bits and pieces that you've forgotten about and, you know, you just want to talk about. We do have an administrator with us today. So if there's any administrator side questions, maybe Ms. McLean would be happy to help us with those questions as well. So we're going to get started. And of course, you know, we just had our little throwback Thursday. We were trying to make it fun and cutesy. Susie and I were trying our best to find like some groovy kind of, you know, peace sign stuff to do. But that was the best thing I had was my throwback Thursday sign. And Susie's got at least a peace sign over here on her coat. So just trying to make professional development fun, right, Susie?
There you go.
All right.
Follows on too, I noticed.
Oh, good. So every time we meet, of course, we relate everything to the digital learning competency goals. And this particular one, of course, is on data and assessment because we do get, of course, data and assessment from the data that you're putting in about discipline referrals. And you'll see that in just a few minutes. Educators Handbook, of course, this is where we take our presentation directly from. You know, we don't want to have credit from this. This is actually a company. This is something that we've purchased as a school system to use us to help keep up with office referrals. And then here's a great place to go for a resource if you need it. And of course, I've mentioned this before, but if you're just now joining us, please make sure you click on this link and go sign in. If you don't sign in, we don't know that you're here. And we do turn this in for credit. You'll get 0.1 hours worth of credit for just attending our session today. And of course, you know, you need 3.0 for, I believe it's 3.0 for DLC credits for all together. So please sign in if you haven't. And then that way we know you're here as well. Introduction, of course. So what in the world is Educators Handbook? You may already kind of know. Educators Handbook is just how we keep up with office referrals. It's a great platform for that, and it gives some really good data about student behavior. You're going to see in a few minutes, like on some of the charts and things that Educators Handbook will provide for you, it kind of tells you like the places, and it kind of tells you the times, and it breaks down like, you know, who's getting in trouble and when are they getting in trouble, so that you can be like, okay, so in the cafeteria on Tuesday mornings, you know, we're really having issues in there on Tuesday morning in the cafeteria. So as a school, we can say, okay, well, maybe on Tuesday mornings we need to put, you know, more staff in the cafeteria. Maybe we need to, you know, address certain areas in our school where we don't have personnel watching students. So it's a great resource, and I think that you'll see it and you'll like it. And then, of course, you know, it's just gives you great talking points and how you can address discipline in your school.
And remember, too, it's also a way for you, they're not always major incidents as you're going to see. They're maybe minor ones. But you know how a kid can push your buttons by they do that same thing, and it's not that bad, but they keep doing it. And then one day you're like, ah! And then you might want to go to Miss McLean and say, this kid's been doing blah, blah, blah. Well, have you documented it? Why are you just coming to this with me now? Or really, that's it? So it also gives you a trail, you know, of what you've done in the past to deal with things before it has to go to the office.
Mm-hmm. And a good way to track things, like, you know, so if you're sitting in an IEP meeting, or sitting in, you know, any kind of meeting about a student, you may not know what's going on in Susie's classroom. Like they may, you know, if I've said, you know, 20 times, you know, you need to take off your hat, 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 and Susie puts that in as a minor referral, and then everybody's doing it. It just gives you that. It's a paper trail. You're right. Of course, the advantages, it is faster than paper. I know some teachers, I have not done it personally, but I know some teachers, the Educators Handbook has an app, and I've even heard of like teachers taking and doing it on the app out on the playground if there was an incident on the playground, and using their own personal phones. Now, of course, we're not saying that you have to do that by any means, but I have heard of teachers doing that.
You're on a trip or a coaching thing with kids or sports.
Mm-hmm. It provides you with notifications. If you set up a roster, we're going to show you that in a few minutes. If one of your students, if you put a student on your roster, say that you're an EC teacher or you're a traveling teacher and you want to keep up with a certain group of kids, if you put in a notifications or make a roster for those kids, it'll send you a notification when one of your students gets in trouble, which is kind of nice.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Great for sports teams and clubs.
Yes.
But those do require administrator approval.
They do. So, I mean, like, because, your administrator may not want you just watching every kid in the building, but yeah, if you're trying to keep up with, your basketball team and you want to make sure that they're behaving, so as far as like, you can set up a notification. Now, and that, of course, you got to work through your principals, but you can. That is a possibility. So. And of course, it's a good record keeping, and it notifies, and you can have a parent letter that it will print. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. Like, you've got to be very specific in the things that you put in your write-ups, because you can print a parent letter from there, which is a really cool feature.
And just going into it, think about this is a legal document. Let's just say things, if it was really bad, this could be used in court.
Okay. And of course, these are just the platforms to access it from. Of course, I'm always going to recommend Chrome, but you can access it. And I do hear that there's an app. Like I said, I haven't personally used it. I don't know if you've added it, Susie, but I haven't. But I have heard of teachers using the app on their phone.
Yeah.
And how do you access? Of course, are you just going to go to incidents, educatorshandbook.com, and you may on another tab right now, even while we're talking, you may try to go do that. I don't mind if you're doing it. Just make sure you're still listening to us. But just go, and if you click forget password, and if it doesn't come up with your email address for the school, all you got to do is send me or Susie an email, and we'll get with your administrators, make sure you're supposed to be in there, and we'll make sure that you're in the system. So before you finish today, if you can't get into it, we'll make sure you're in, no worries, and make sure you've got the correct school assigned to you. Now, if you're with us and you're a traveling person, you may have to have more than one school assigned to you, and we can do that as well. All right, so this is the page that it looks like whenever you first come up. And of course, whenever you first start, you're going to go to see Miss Swanky. You may want to go here to set a new password. We may have to do that for you in a few minutes, but it's really easy. You just sign in, and most of the time, your computer will save the password for you.
Miss Swanky, if you click on that little whistle, and then you'll see your icon come up. Click on that icon. It gives you it tells you to change your password. Okay. The icon's in the upper right-hand corner.
When you were put into the system, you were put in with your school email address. So please make sure you use your school email address. You're not using like your personal address. And then whenever you make your password, we don't care what you make your password. That's completely up to you. But of course, that attributes it to you. And then when you go into the system, these are the major icons that you're going to see. So for example, Susie is logged in here, and then these are the main icons that you're going to see. The first thing right up here, the set up and change your password. That's what we were talking about with Ms. Swanky. Then you're going to have an icon for writing up a report, the actual reports, the calendar, and then rosters is what we were talking about just a few minutes ago. The main thing that you're going to use for the most part is right here with this writing up reports. Of course, you can set your password. Reporting an incident. Type of incident. The first thing it's going to ask when you click on that button is going to ask the incident type. And right here, you get to pick two different things. You can even pick it. It's going to be an office referral, which means this is going to the principal. Your principal gets notification for the minors as well. But this is saying, hey, I want my principal to deal, or my administrator to deal with this issue. If you write up an office referral, that's what it's going to be. Now, the other one, the minor incidents, they can see that, but it's mainly just for like your documentation. And so I know that one time the administrators, they made a list of things that are just office referrals and things that are minor incidents. If you're not sure, of course, I would ask your principals, but because I want to say like last year, I remember at West Montgomery, they made a list of what are the things that have to definitely need to be written up as office referrals, and what are just those little things like, Susie won't take off her hat that needs to be written up as a minor referral.
And let me just say, a lot of these have been fine-tuned because remember, this syncs with Power School. And, well, actually, I guess Power School would be your legal document, but it syncs with Power School. And as you go in, it is going to guide you through the steps. You're not going to be able to just choose anything you want. As you pick the location and the subject and all, it's going to give you a number of choices.
And the good thing is the principals have been trained in this, and they were all using it last year. Most of the principals, we don't really have any new administrators. And they know, like, if you put something in there, they can always send it back to you, send the referral back to you for you to make changes to it or make changes themselves. So then, of course, the next thing is time and date. The only thing that I did send one back to somebody the other day because they put AM and they had the AM and PM mixed up. So that's pretty basic. You're going to make sure you have the correct time, make sure you have the correct date, and that's for data purposes too, so that we can see, on Tuesday morning in the cafeteria we're having issues. Location. Now, location, we may need to do some adjusting to that. And if your school has a certain location that is not added, we can add that. Ms. McLean, I know you're in there with us. Like, for example, if there's like a corridor or there's like a certain little hallway, a lot of the generic things are in there. But if there's a certain location that's not in our system, we can change it and add that. A lot of them are like classroom, bathroom, and so forth.
Even say bus.
Bus, yep.
And we do have a couple of little places that I would like to add, like our quad.
Okay. Yeah, if you'll just email us, and we'll get that added.
Okay, thank you.
And the subject, like, what was the main subject of it? What was it like? What was the overhead? And just like I said, be specific, or you can choose to be unspecific. The arrangements, like what was going on, and here's some examples. There was groups. It was seat work. It was during a quiz. It was during a transitional time. All of this is pretty it's pretty self-explanatory. And then the offense. What was the incident? What actually happened? And then you're going to write a description. Now, we're going to talk a few minutes about writing the description because I want you and the offenders, the description and the offenders. The cool thing, whenever you go type in the offenders, when you start typing the name, like if I start typing Susan.Reed, it automatically populates with PowerSchool. So if it'll automatically find their name. If it's a kid that's in our PowerSchool system, it automatically finds their name. So when I start typing Susan, it'll tell me all the Susans are in PowerSchools. So if you don't happen to remember their last name, or you got part of their last name, but you want to make sure that name is correct, because when this thing uploads to PowerSchools, it's going to be on that kid's permanent record, or like forever record. So cautions. These are where we would definitely want to stop for just a few seconds and talk to you. What are the type of whatever you write, somebody can see it. It is going to be, it's going to, what was that word that they used to use all the time? It goes into an authoritative source. What was it, Susie? Tell me what the word was. It goes into an official source. So whatever you type, make sure that you type it and that it is actually something that you would want the parent to read. You want to be very, very descriptive. Write as much as you can, but remember the things that you write are things that the parent can see. So of course, you don't want to say that anybody was being a little whatever. Because
on your nerves. Be specific to the behavior, not the character. Be specific. Just describe the behavior.
Just describe the behavior. And then here's like just some do's and don'ts. Please be factual. Please, you might want to write up what led up to it. And of course, you don't want to add your own personal opinion. And this is not a time to rant. I know that, emotions run high and you might be upset about this situation because, something might have happened directly to you, but you've got to be just very specific about the event itself. And I don't know. What else do I need to say about that one, Susie?
I think we've said it. You just don't want to be, that kid got on my last nerve. I couldn't take it anymore. Yeah. For the 10th time, he did blah, 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 or she did it. Anyway.
Yes. Very much so. And just try to keep your own personal opinions out of it, and try to, I know that other administrators have also mentioned, you may not want to mention another student's name. You may want to say they hit another student, not they hit Susan Reed. You may want to, they hit another student, and not necessarily, because if another parent's reading this, you just need to omit that information, because the principal will know. And of course the administrator will know, and I'm sure they'll ask lots of questions, but you may want to say, this happened with another student.
Or the victim or whatever.
But you probably do need to say in some situations, if they hit or touched a female student or a male student, sometimes that can be important.
Okay. And you will get a chance to put the victim's name in.
Yeah.
So in another place.
Okay. All right, and then of course the reports. These reports usually go out, and I think that most data managers upload these up to PowerSchool. They upload them, on Fridays. But there's some really cool reports that like administrators can show you, like in PLCs. And this is kind of like just a sample reporting screen, and we can show this one because it's just a sample school. On that report, so it's this little tab right here with the little lines, and it really gives some really good data. So like from right here, you can see that a lot of things going on are classroom disruptions, and there's a lot of physical, aggressions. And most of the time, it'll show you the location, so like in the classrooms are where we're having problems. And then from this particular page, you can see it's like during math time. So a principal may look at this, or you may look at this in your PLC meeting and be like, okay, so what's going on in the classroom at math time? Like what's going on if it's only in certain classes. And then at the bottom, you can see where they were doing seat work. So maybe we need to do something different. And then
look at 9 o'clock in the morning. What are y'all doing? Taking a break?
I know. Yeah. Do you see at 9 o'clock in the morning down there that lots going on? And then of course on Thursday, like, I don't know, I guess they're gearing up for the weekend. So it just gives
It's
some really good
Thursday.
Yeah, throwback Thursday. They're throwing it back, I guess. I don't know. But it just gives you an idea of when incidents are happening, and so that you can, be on alert on those times. And then, of course, there's a calendar. It'll tell you that you can track the days. And so if you went, and I just click this, anytime that there's a little blue dot, you can see that there is actually an incident on that day, and you can see it for yourself. The principal can see it for the entire school. But this is just a little helpful tool as part of it. Rosters. Now, rosters is where we want to talk just a few minutes, because I'm thinking, like, especially if you're a traveling teacher, or you've got, I know some schools have like buddies and partners, or if you're an EC teacher and you want to keep up with your group, rosters is a great way to do that. You can create a group of students of anybody in your school. Now, I'm going to say this first. These rosters have to be approved by your administrator. You're not going to just go pick your kids' friends because, like, oh, okay, so Caroline's hanging out with X, Y, and Z, so I'm going to go make a roster so I can go see if they're bad behavior kids. Nah, your administrator is probably not going to approve that one. But if it's actually a group of kids that you're working with, like your basketball team, your football team, kids that you actually want to keep up with, you've got a buddy in the school, I'm sure that those kind of things will be, approved. So even if they're your class, yes.
Club where you may need that, like a National Honor Society or Beta Club, where that matters. Grades, not only grades, but behavior matters.
Definitely. It's definitely not going to be a tool that we're using just to be nosy, right? Definitely not to be nosy. All right, so rosters, so they'll be set up. So like for this particular one, this teacher set up one for her 4th grade students. And let's see, you're going to add in your specific students. And as you start typing their name, it comes up automatically. So if I start typing Susan.Reed, her name, it'll automatically come up. And of course, you can make a smart roster,
which is kind of neat if you go back to that, because look at what you could do. 5th grade students with an IEP, so if you're looking at a specific group that you want to follow, or, kids that have had, look at that, 3 or more days of OSS, or kids anyway. But if you want to track maybe a particularly troublesome group, or maybe a great group.
Yeah, or if you wanted to do some kind of reward system, because it says students that have had 0 incidents in the last month. So like if the school came up, the principal said, hey, who in our school has never had an incident in the last month? Let's do some kind of drawing or something. That you can definitely get a list that way very, very easily. And then whenever you make your roster, it shows up like this. And I think this is really, really cool at a glance. So I can see right here, Mark has had some referrals, Mark's had some minors, and he's even got something that's pending with the principal right now. Really quick at a glance, I can just see my page and I can see who's got what. And then, of course, I can click right here on the referrals, not on this particular presentation, but I can actually go see what Mark's referrals were. And you see that right there? He's got an IEP. So like I said, if you're an EC teacher or, a traveling teacher, that might be something that you need to know. And then here's some resources. There's lots of resources in the roles. And of course, some people can just see rosters only. There's some school roles if you needed to know that information. And then most of this, I think, is just like things just for you. Now, we were told originally that the bus drivers were not going to be added. I don't know if that's changed or not. We have been told that teachers' assistants will be added. And, I haven't seen anything much different from this. The data managers are the ones that usually upload all of this to PowerSchool. And then how to access your account. There is a little video there. And then I'm going to stop the recording because I want to actually go in and show you like how this, so I'm going to stop the recording. I'm going to stop sharing long enough to go in, and I'm going to stop the recording, Susie, so that I can actually show them an actual real life example, So stop recording, stop